Hello and welcome everyone. Wishing all of you a very good afternoon, and I hope all of you are doing well and keeping safe. Let us start introducing our speakers for today and start this interesting session, which has been curated by the Skills Working Group of the Future Tech Panel, or the IT Future Tech Panel rather. And the topic is on creating and preparing for 1 million jobs in India on future skills over the next 5 years, the framework and the action plan. I will pass this over to you now, Vivek, and I'll be around here if you need me.
Absolutely. Suman, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Just to kind of set a bit of a tone of what we are trying to do here, we are looking at, clearly right now, all of us are looking at various numbers. National Education Policy 2020 has been unveiled by the government, which is very promising. Industry is looking at it from from various quarters, we are looking at it with a lot of confidence. There is a lot of talk about future technologies and how exactly it is going to shape our industries, workplaces, and how in turn the organizations are going to shape the skills value chain, if you will. So, in this context, if I just share some numbers with an objective as to how in India we can create a million future technology related skills pool by 2025. In this context, uh, just to kind of talk about, Goldman Sachs has come out with some kind of a data which is around extended reality, which is part of the overall future technology space, will become an industry starting from $7 billion in 2020 to roughly $80 billion by 2025. Again, another similar, very prestigious research and valuation firm has come out and said, "Hey, 3D printing is going to in next decade. 3D printing is going to create an economic impact of anything between $250 billion to $550 billion." So these are very large impact areas we are talking about, and this is across industry sectors: healthcare, manufacturing, agriculture, government, and so on and so forth. So, given the fact that there is a lot of promise, excitement, and at the same time, we are at the cusp of various types of challenges. And clearly, one of the biggest triggers has been in the last few months COVID itself. Uh, what we wanted to do in this session is we have got an August panel of a very senior industry veterans coming in from different industry quarters, guide us, take us through their experiences as to how industries are thinking in terms of roping in academia, government initiatives, industry forums, and their peers to create skill related changes in the workplace and otherwise to lead this entire change which we are in the middle of. So I will start asking some questions with each of the panelists. The format is going to be we ask the questions with the panelists. We will have sort of an interactive discussion amongst the panelists first, and then towards the latter part of the discussion, we will open the discussion and question and answer session with those who are participating in this. So let me ask my first question, Ravi, with yourself. Clearly, there are a lot of numbers, and we are wanting to create a million working force in the future technology areas and future technologies as we typically define as AI, ML. So horizontal skills are going to be AI, ML, blockchain, extended reality, and so on. And then there are vertical skills, genomics and whatnot. So, sir, in what will be the magnitude of, say, future technologies, be it vertical or horizontal, their requirements in India in healthcare, the space where you have huge experience in next 5 years? Any specific use cases you believe will come up, which is not there in the marketplace today as a skill in next 5 years? So, your comments, please.
Uh, Thank you, Vivek. It's a pleasure and honor to be among such an esteemed panel, and I'll certainly share my 2 cents on what I have seen being in the industry for the last 40 years and in the healthcare specifically for the last 25 years. Not only in India, but India can be a proxy for other emerging markets as well. Let me go back to 1978 when we first said health for all by 2000. That was an endorsement that was done by over 200 countries at Alma Ata. 40 years down the line, we are nowhere even close to it. If we look at the availability of infrastructure in terms of beds per patient, or doctors per patient or nurses per patient or even equipment per patient like an MR or a CT or whatever, we find that we are almost a third of what the world averages are. The spend on GDP is about 25 is about 2.5%, as against what we get to see in the Western world. US is about 12 to 18%, and Japan is in again in a similar order. Uh, so one thing that comes to the mind is saying we said we are going to achieve something in 22 years. It's 42 years now, still nowhere close to it. How are we going to sort of even tackle this problem that we are having? Pumping in any amount of resources is not going to solve the problem for us in terms of decentralizing healthcare. There are other associated issues as well when it comes to the dispensation of care, because in India, the population in the cities is about 150 million, and you've got about 520,000 doctors there. The urban, the semi-urban, and the so-called the middle tier cities, you got a population of about 300 million and 250,000 doctors, and for the balance 830 million in the rural area, you find that there are 65,000 doctors. So it's completely an inverted pyramid of sorts. You just don't have the resources where the need is, all of it being concentrated in the cities. Now, be as it may, that is going to be the reality. So, if given that, in spite of that particular constraint which is going to exist, how are we still going to decentralize healthcare and how do we make healthcare available for all? I think Ayushman Bharat is one great step in that direction. They were talking of setting up 150,000 wellness centers. So, what really needs to be done is how are we going to equip each of these wellness centers and give them the confidence? Because today, when if I and you get a or a light fever, the first thing we do is to go to a Fortis or a Narayana or a Manipal to look at the expert consultant. Now, given the resource constraint that we have, this consultant would be better serving the nation if he were to go and attend to a more serious case than treating yours and mine cough and cold. Now, we don't go to the primary care clinic because we simply don't have the confidence of either the infrastructure or the capability at that level. So, I think the first thing that we really need to do, Vivek, is to ensure that in the wellness centers, we have got staffs that those are adequately trained. You have got compounders who are skilled to handle. You have got doctors who are able to sort of dispense care, and then use the digitization portion of it to connect it to a so-called a district hospital or a hub where you have the expert overseeing what is actually getting dispensed into the spoke, which is basically the primary wellness centers. Now, simple math will tell you if I got 150,000 centers and I require one doctor and one nursing staff there, that itself accounts for almost 300,000 people. So, but in reality, that ain't going to happen. We are not going to have all the 150,000 centers up and running in a couple of years for sure. So, from that perspective, I think put any number to it, it is a magnitude that will baffle all of us, that is going to sort of surprise all of us in terms of how much the country actually needs. And what we are now looking for is to try and see how these digital technologies, like for example, say a chest pain center. Uh, Suppose I am in near Mumbai. Let me take a place like say Panvel. If I have a chest pain, if I am able to go to the wellness center where the technician is able to take my ECG and upload it a to a center in Bombay where I have an expert cardiologist opine on it and turn it back in maybe 2 or 3 minutes, then in which case you are actually enabling care at a distributed level, and also save the time, you're saving the cost, you're also saving the golden hour which would have otherwise taken for this guy to travel all the way from Panvel to Bombay for treatment. So digitization, AI, ML can come to fore in multiple areas, in multiple aspects. Suffice to say that the conventional way of thinking of a growth, the way we have thought of growth so far, is not going to take us anywhere. We need to look at exponential technologies driven by the digital backbone, which is going to make health for all in India and in other emerging countries a reality. And to that extent, I think how much ever we can invest, I think there is no limit to it. It's the question of how do we get the right talents, how do we engage with the universities to get the right education imparted, I think those are the aspects that we really need to delve on, and the industry, academia, and the government will have to really work hand in hand to realize this vision. I think I would possibly end there and then take up the questions that you might have, Vivek. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ravi sir, I will quickly ask one question, very comprehensively answered. Thank you for that. You touched upon a very relevant point, and that was about distribution of roles. So, suppose somebody has taken a scan can be read by somebody else. So, is there a way you are looking at componentizing the entire value chain or the process itself? And are we talking about mapping parts of the processes or sub processes to certain skills, which could be either tech related or low tech related, depending on how the work is? Is there sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, like
Yeah,
for example, let me take the case of ECG itself.
right.
If one has to interpret an ECG, you require an MD for this. Even a MBBS doctors have told me saying that while they can know whether it's a go or a no go, any further amount of detailing into the ECG and looking at what the problem with the heart is, it requires an MD cardiology at the very least. So we don't expect an MD cardiology in every wellness center. As long as the as long as the technician is able to take the ECG, for which the machine has enough intelligence to tell him whether the ECG is a good or a bad one and ensure that a good one is taken, it automatically gets transmitted either to a cardiologist in a central location or to a intelligent decision support system, which basically takes that ECG in a digital format, maybe a XML or maybe a PDF, and then interprets the result and throws the result back to the MBBS doctor who is there at the center. So in that sense, yeah, you very clearly know what is the expectation of the technician, what is the expectation of an MBBS doctor there, and what is the expectation and role of the MD cardiology. So we can sort of compartmentalize the work that each one of them is doing and ensure that they are skilled appropriately to enable do that function to 100%.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you. Sameep, I'm coming to you with the same question in a slightly different context, given the fact that manufacturing is a huge spectrum, a really big spectrum, from the heavy machineries going up to those, boutique companies which are into deep tech and whatnot. Now, in this context, how exactly you see skilling from the magnitude of future tech skilling standpoint, layering up to manufacturing sector? I mean, our focus being that we are wanting to create a million jobs in future tech across sectors in India. And manufacturing is clearly one of the top two blocks, both GDP contribution wise, employment generation wise, and whatnot. And clearly one of the largest when it comes to formal sector. So, how do you see this uh, going and penetrating deeper downs, given the different hues and colors of manufacturing, enterprises in terms of size, shade, scale, everything?
Thanks, Vivek. No, at a manufacturing, I think one is, of course, looking at the future of building 1 million job, as I think you picked up that. But I think let me also reflect back last 6, 7 years that what I've seen, what happens when the digital actually starts making inroads into the factories, into the workforce, and what happens to it, and then possibly I'll extend that experience to where it can go into the future. I think first of all, this entire norm about digital itself as a term which I think sometimes gets used alternatively to IT, alternatively to automation. So I think in my mind, when I speak about digital, it is more about not just automation, but it is also about improving the overall quality of life, improving the overall quality of life from a quality point of view, from the lead time point of view, from the number of hours that one put into it, from a safety point of view, health point of view. Now, when you look at all of this put together, then the digital suddenly becomes a different ball game, and the use case for digital becomes completely different. So when we talk about the skilling, the first thing that we did in 3, 4 years back is sensitize this 25,000 that people that we have across the group, and we reached out to more than 96, 97% of those people to help them understand how digital is going to impact their lives. It was not an effort to help them understand how digital will possibly take their job, but to help them understand how can they do their job much more better in a smaller lead time, more efficiently, in a more safer and healthier manner. Now that in the entire awareness takes your entire quotient of digital to the next level, and I think we are still at a level, we are still at a stage in the digital journey where this awareness at a masses is important. I think thanks to COVID, there is a curiosity which is increased to understand the digital in every function. Thanks to COVID, that people are trying to be more experimentative to look at what are the different options in digital to improve the lead time, to improve the productivity, etc. But what has happened is, because of that, this entire, we've always say that smart factory or industry 4.0 is like a next industrial revolution. But I never thought so it was happening a revolution pre-COVID. Okay, it was still possibly one person trying to do, few people trying to do. But I think post-COVID, the industrial revolution, any revolution, as you know, only happens when masses will join. And today I see that masses are actually coming into the mainstream. A lot of people, other than the CDO in the organization or few management, which are trying to look at the use case for digital. In our case, we've seen that many people from ground zero are trying to understand what digital. So from a skilling point of view, the first gap that we have is to actually take our own people to the next level. It's, of course, we're talking about creating new jobs, which will come in the form of new technology that will come. But first important is just an awareness of a technology and how do I use that technology in my, because you have to see the technology and digital on the context of the domain that you understand. If there is a guy who's actually working with a 20 years of an experience, you can't replace that guy with a person with a new skill and the new job just because he understands analytics and on AI. It has to be a combination. So a lot of, I think for me, it is an incremental journey. I think a lot of this new job creation may be an incremental to the people who have an existing understanding of a domain and a function, and they migrate to a digital. So I think a lot of this is going to be a migratory journey right now, where people with a functional background will have to migrate to a digital. And I think along with that, there are certain expertise that will get created. For example, when we talk about an IoT or an analytics or a machine visioning, there will be certain technical expertise which are required, which will come as an added new job. But an application of a technology to making it successful on the job, a lot of people's awareness and quotient has to go down. So it's a both side. It is one on the incremental journey of a skill for the existing workforce, complemented by the new specific deep skill that you bring in from an outside, which will be required to complement that domain knowledge and incremental awareness of application of a technology. This combination is what I think has helped us so far in our journey. And I think going forward, I see there is a huge opportunity to elevate this entire bottom of the pyramid. As I always look at the skill pyramid, if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, had started because of the automation years back and decades back. That slice of the work started becoming automated through machines, for example. In Y2, in the 90s, it started becoming automated through computers. Now there's a time where the automation is happening for the mental repetitiveness. So the mental fatigue was never gone, but the physical fatigue was always gone traditionally in all the automation that happened. Today is a time where the mental fatigue will also go. Anything which is repetitive mentally will also be done by robotics and machine. So the humans will have to elevate to the next level to do a lot more creative, interesting, and collaborative work. So I think it's a time where the entire humanity and the last level of the pyramid will disappear, or will actually migrate to the near, and you'll have a lot flatter pyramid in terms of the skills which are required. So that's how I look at it. But yeah, anything specific, more than happy to take a use case if that helps.
No, absolutely. Samir, thanks for this. One quick follow-up question on this. We were talking about digital journey, and I completely see your point that hey, clearly there is a need of retooling of existing employees into digital and other technology areas, as well as having new workforce come in and with their deep tech knowledge kind of complement the existing workforce. So absolutely taken that point. Now, given the fact that RPG is a very diversified conglomerate, and clearly the requirements of future technologies are going to be different in different verticals, from custodianship standpoint, the skill strategy is going to still continue within the businesses, or is there any pan business skill custodianship which is being created in a as diversified conglomerate as yours is? Is there a chief skill officer sorts we are looking at being created at the top level, C level, who starts looking at human capital very differently than we used to look conventionally? How's the mood and the outlook there?
So there are two. I'll talk again specific to RPG, couple of things, and what I've seen in the outside world, couple of things here. So specific to RPG, if you look at the entire skilling part that we've looked at least from a digital point of view, is we've launched our own digital academy internally. As a CDO, I was a custodian of it, and my team, we were a custodian of it. We've also married that with our own pillar of inspiring innovation as a pillar for a corporate university at a group level, and actually ran a lot of programs under it. So I think then we joined hands with our HR people because it has to be done at a scale. And that cannot be a custodian for a digital team to take that job saying 25,000 people I want to deliver at scale and increase that quotient. So I think the custodian of skilling will have to work with an HR. In our case, at least we work with HR to actually deliver it at scale. But I have seen a lot of expanded role when you want to take it to the next level from governments and academics which have played role. For example, there is this platform called as Portfolio in US. They've launched it recently. There are already some 3.75 million students and 50,000 experienced people who joined that platform. The platform is a transparent platform which is actually bringing a transparency to the future technology profiles that you have. Now, this platform will create a pull factor for you to go and be participative. Then, for example, if you look at Singapore has started giving a subsidy for any future technology training that you do. Now, those subsidized training which are coming from government will help people and motivate people to take a lot of more training courses in the future technology. So I think it is going to be a combination of what you do. Of course, at a group level, at a function level, at a PNL level, when I head a PNL, I'll have to look at what kind of future skills that I need to build within my team. For example, in my own team, we have sponsored 2 data scientists. Their Great Lake course that they've done in the advanced analytics, we've sponsored it. So I think at an individual factor and operation level, you will do what you can do to take the quotient to the next level. For example, if you look at 15, 16 years back when I started my career, Six Sigma was like most premium role in the manufacturing. And today, if you look at, you will have a supervisor explaining you the design of experiment on the shop floor. Now it took 15 years for that to happen. In digital, possibly it will happen every 2 years. That a technology. If you look at, for example, RPA today, I see RPA is already becoming a commodity. We've, I think, taken a leap of faith last year saying that we want to do 5 processes. Today we are saying that we want to do 200 processes in the next 18 months. That shows the radical speed with which it gets implemented and commoditized. So I think the commoditization is going to happen a lot more faster, and hence I think it has to work on both. I think taking the entire awareness and quotient to the next level. Vis-a-vis, I think some contribution from academics and government will help you, I think, take people on this journey of scaling on a more self-service mode. But I think for that, there's augmentation from government in terms of some schemes will help. Academics joining and I think changing their courses, which has already started happening, would also help to create this moment at a national level or at a scale level.
Right. Yes. Sure. So thanks for that. Very, very enlightening. With that, Sanjay, let me come to you the same question, but with slightly different context. So I was kind of going through some of the details. This is by Future Skills. This is an organization in Germany. They were given the task, or they had taken the mandate of figuring out as to how in BFSI sector, particularly, what is going to be the need of future technology related skills in next 5 years. And the number came out 700,000, out of which roughly 450,000 were the skills which are around deep tech. So deep tech meaning in their kind of definitional context, AI, ML, or deep digital, if you will. Now, this is in the
Yeah.
context
So
of, yeah, sorry, very quickly finishing my question, Sanjay. So this is, of course, a very different country, very different kind of a context, and I'm not trying to compare it in any way to what we have back in India. This being the services context, and clearly Accenture being one of the largest consulting companies and execution companies globally, what's your outlook in terms of the way we can create a million future tech jobs in India across sectors, and what is Accenture particularly doing about it?
okay, so I think it's a good question. So as like we have just heard from Ravi and Samit, like digital is something which is widely being used terminology, but again that definitions are getting changed time to time. So sometime it is a digital transformation, sometime it can have the other name, but actually this is the how we are bringing more value to our customers. So it's about having some better experiences and better efficiency. So this is basically the digital transformation that we are working on. And as you rightly pointed out, like there are huge demands coming, like specifically in India, because we cannot compare India with the other countries, but at least the overall ecosystem that we have, which can be like a combination of the talent, policies, or maybe infrastructure and the technology. So that is how this the overall this the ecosystem is getting built. And if you see this, the recent report of this National Skill Development Corporation, again, the various sectors they have this the lot of demand, and by 2022, almost 120 million demands are there. So in the different sectors, like construction, the retail sector is one sector where this 76 million demands are coming. Then transportation, logistic, again 28.4 million demands are coming. Wellness industry again 14.27. So as Ravi said, like the way that we are working currently, it's getting changed, and the people they are finding the new way to address the larger market. That's how this the overall demand is also getting improved. So like the telemedicine example that Ravi has given. So it was just imagine this a few months back before the COVID, the people they were ready with the technology, but there were certain policies which are restricting the users of that, and now like because of this COVID pandemic, like the lot of this the relaxation has been provided by the government as well. So it's a combination of the talent and then the policies and the technology. So the people they are very talented in India, right? So you might have seen like during this the COVID time, because of the even in the full lockdown, the people they created this the like a lot of medical devices for the remote health monitoring, and even this the ventilators and the ECG machine with the very limited infrastructure, where this all kind of the import was banned, but still the people they have the talent and they come up with the new ideas how to collaborate this online, and then they come up with that. So coming to your question about like in terms of the industry, what we are seeing like the trend is all kind of industry, irrespective of whether this is the banking, financial, or manufacturing, or healthcare, any kind of the industry. Everyone is looking at doing the different the things in a different way. So more and more this online things are coming, and that's how this the technologies like AI and the cloud, and these are majorly playing the dominating this the overall technology stack that we have. But at the same time, people they are finding the way how to improve the efficiency of the existing people as well. So the reskilling of the people, that is again the core like you can say the priority for the organization. So like earlier if you see this the people they were just expert in one technology, but nowadays like it's a full stack developer. So it's not about this the only the website development where you have to have the full stack, but all kind of technology, full stack cloud, full stack this AI, full stack this backend, all kind of the thing, like the people they are looking at the full cloud this full stack developers. So for all the technology, primarily this the technology if I talk about, then the AI, cloud, and again this maybe this the full stack part of that. So these are the few things that we have. So mainly around this the data that we have, how we can leverage to have the better experience and the improved efficiency. So when I say the improved efficiency, it can be like the people efficiency, or it can be this the infrastructure, or it can be this the resources efficiency. So like in the manufacturing industry, now the people they are thinking of this the robotics, because during this the COVID time, like the though the IT industry were running successfully, but the other manufacturing plant and the other stuff they suffered a lot. So during that time, even this a lot of people they moved to this the new technology, they adopted this the robotics as well as the automation to the next level. And that is how like the industry they want to have this the automation to the next level. So not only in terms of this the software automation, but also in terms of the manufacturing and the hardware and the robotics and the other stuff. So that's how this the overall trend is changing. Like it's not about this uh, the people, definitely they have to upskill, but also infrastructure level, where the organization they have to improve their infrastructure, and also at the government level, like where they have to improve the policies as well, and everyone is doing their own role, right? So if you just see this the overall ecosystem, it's a combination of corporate, government, and the vocational training institute. So right now, even this the academic institute, like earlier they were having just the traditional curriculum, but now they have also improved, and they have moved to this the curriculum which is more inclined towards the industry requirements. So everywhere, like in the overall system ecosystem, all of the people they are playing their role, and industry is moving very faster. People they are adopting the new ways to do the thing better than the earlier one.
Right. No, Sanjay, thanks very much. This is clearly what I was, I mean, at least anticipating coming from the similar industry. So thanks for providing details. Now, hi.
Yeah, Vivek, I think we lost you there. But thank you so much, Sanjay, for those inputs. I think that is what Vivek was also saying. Till the time Vivek is back, we would like to move on with the other questions that he has said. One of the things was around when you talk about trainings, right? When you talk about some specific formats and in which the trainings can be imparted when you talk about skilling. How does how do you feel? And I'll come to all of you one by one, starting with Ravi. So, how do you feel that the industry, academia, tertiary sector like foundations, NGOs, civic societies can reimagine skilling or micro skilling? Now, what will be the relevant frameworks like? For example, any vocational course that should be run only in collaboration with the industry under AICTE or UGC guidelines, those kind of things that you see.
Uh, Suman, I think even before we address the challenges by the NGOs or any of these foundation, I would go one step back to look at where the education is actually happening. The primary education is actually happening, be it the engineering colleges, be it the medical colleges, be it what have you. I think one of the things that we really need to do is to ensure that the people who teach these subjects are also themselves qualified. In a sense, I don't want to take names here, but then just out of curiosity, I asked one of the professors in an engineering college saying, would you be able to differentiate between a CT and an MR machine? The answer is no. If he's not able to differentiate between the two, what is he going to teach the students about? So my fundamental problem is saying, hey, can you come on a sabbatical for about 6 months to an industry to understand what are the cutting edge technologies that are being dealt with in the industry? Technology is changing almost every 2 years. You got something that is absolutely new. Kubernetes, for example, or microservices, or any of the stuff that we are talking about today was non-existent 2 3 years back. So, from that perspective, given the fact that the technology is changing so fast, are the teachers of this technology to the students themselves equipped to understand and handle this? Is a question that I have. And for that, just the way that you have in the US and in other advanced markets where you have professors taking sabbatical and working with the industry, I think that is something that we need to really bring to fore. Uh, Now, that is one part of the story. I think the second part of the story is every university has a set of syllabus, and that syllabus gets changed once in 10 years, by which the technology has moved leaps and bounds. If I take healthcare itself as a specific case in point, you talk about privacy, you talk about security, given the fact that you have got enough and other digital machines and elements that we are planning to connect to the network. By 2050, it is estimated to have 1 trillion devices on the network. Who's going to take care of the security? Who's going to take care of privacy? Who's going to take care of the quality and regulatory aspects of it? Now, and those subjects are never covered in any of the academia systems. I can say that with a fair degree of confidence because I'm at least in 4 of the governing councils, and it came as a surprise when we told them, saying that hey, you really need to start looking at all of this. Like for example, if somebody talks of in the healthcare domain again, if somebody talks of say a DICOM standard or a fire standard or a HL7 standard, what does it actually mean? What are the repercussions? So that you minimize the time that a guy gets productive when he hits the industry. Today, it takes about 9 months for a good graduate engineer by the time he starts turning productive, and the industry wants it from day one. That is an expectation. So, we really need to bring in a lot more closer academia and industry interaction, to say the least, and also ensure that what is current in the industry and what is going to come into the industry is actually taught to the students, so that when they join the industry, they are in a position to sort of hit the ground running. I think I would possibly leave it at that, Suman.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I couldn't agree more with you. Sameep, about your views onto this?
So a couple of things, and I think while I just would add to what Ravi said, a couple of things to it. I think one I believe, and we've tried few things on that in RPG, is as digital becomes more and more mainstream, okay, and pervasive across business, which is already becoming. Today, the digital is not just saying that you do manufacturing or a finance, but you do it actually across businesses to take it to the next level. The first important thing is a lot of reverse mentoring. We have seen that a lot of new generation that comes into it, for them, it's not that they know it all, to adapt it is much faster and quicker. So, in fact, we started on the digital side some of the reverse mentoring as well. So, some of our actually very senior management, including the board member, have gone to juniors to understand some of the aspects. So, I think reverse mentoring may become a mainstream eventually in the digital, and it will help a lot because you'll find a lot of new generation which is coming into a workforce would be the born digital workforce. Okay, we still have another 5 years. The workforce which is joining will be a born digital workforce. So I think reverse mentoring is going to be one important thing that will help. The second, I believe on the skilling side, when I look at the operators and the at scale, when I look at from a manufacturing point of view, some of the courses, if you look at traditionally, we had these ITI kind of courses which are around fitting and welding, etc., which are all manufacturing domain knowledge. Now, if you look at that, traditional manufacturing is extremely uh, very fastly getting merged with the digital. So the role of computer, the role of robotics, the role of IoT is actually going to get emerged. So I don't know if the ITIs of the world are taking it to the next level, or there would be a different ITI parallel kind of a digital academy or whatever we call it, which creates those operator which have, let's say, I have a set of operator which have extremely good knowledge of IoT and sensors. And I'm not saying they are actually manufacturing IoT, but an understanding of an IoT, understanding of data, how to capture from IoT. Similarly, if you look at machine visioning and camera, if you've got, we've, I think, investing machine visioning, a lot of cameras, Raspberry Pi cameras that we're investing, so many cameras that comes onto the shop floor, and we are still dependent on the vendor or somebody who knows saying that if something goes wrong, how do we deal with it? Now, if you look at the digital is going to be next level of asset, which will actually complement the existing traditional asset. So it's going to be a part of your asset. And like you take care of your asset in the manufacturing, you have an asset maintenance team. Those manufacturing people, like ITI, if we start providing them the deeper courses, imagine there are a set of people who just understand all types of cameras, including CCTV cameras, Raspberry Pi cameras, machine vision. They'll be much better off when there is a disturbance that will happen, when the disruption in the manufacturing line will happen. Otherwise, what happens is that you embrace this technology very quickly, but because there are very few people who knows how to manage it, how to manage this disruption, there could be a lot more breakage into the productivity actually. And you will see the dip that is happening because people are now struggling to deal with the technology. People are struggling to work with the robots and the computer. So I think somewhere this intervention where we create these deep pockets of experience, which is augmenting their manufacturing knowledge of functional knowledge along with the digital knowledge. I think that I haven't seen or read about it, but I believe there is a good opportunity to create something for that for government.
Thank you, Samip. Sanjay, your views on this, please.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Sanjay.
Yeah, so I think Ravi and Samip they have covered it well, but I have also my view on this. So because I'm part of this advisory board for some of the universities, so what I'm seeing is like the trend is slightly changing. So it's not everyone has adopted, but specifically few of the tier two and tier one colleges that they have, so they are improving their curriculum and they are adopting this new technology. It's very fast, and you might be surprised to see like a lot of the students which recently pass out from these colleges, they already have this lot of research papers, and in terms of this the technology, whatever the technology you think of, they might have already done some certification and the project as well. So earlier, the trend was like the people they were studying for the degree or the certification, but nowadays the people like the student they are very fast And because of this, the thanks to the government, like a lot of this events are coming, like hackathon and the other thing, where they are promoting this the entrepreneurship and asking the people to come up with the ideas so that they can scale that. So the good colleges, they are adopting this, and the students, they are participating very well. And if you see, the lot of good technology in terms of the software, they are familiar, but still there is a gap in terms of the the some of the industries. For example, the manufacturing industry. Why do we hire the senior people or not the fresher? Because we the time to market is very important. So we want to have run the project just in time hiring, and then run the show, and then move on, right? So but if we gone are the days when the organization, they were investing on hiring the fresher, training them for 1 year or 2 year, then bringing them into the mainstream. Now that time has been reduced. So the organization, they are still training the people, but from 1 year to 2 year kind of the training, it has been reduced to this 2 month to 3 month kind of the thing. So here, this what I feel is the partner ecosystem. It plays important role. So for example, if I talk about manufacturing or the engineering background, then the few player like PTC or Dassault system and others, other also the major player, they they have to play a major role. And the corporate, they are leveraging these companies and the technologies, and bringing them early onto the curriculum system of the academia. So I know, like in my previous organization, we were in the advisory board for the couple of organizations, this colleges and the universities, where we were having the regular connect with them, and the curriculum was refreshing every year based on our understanding and the market need. And also, the last semester, which is the industrial training, we have designed the complete concept and everything, and pass it on to the universities, that you can take this as a last semester of your curriculum. And by the time the student, they complete their degrees, they are ready for the industry. So we need not to spend this the 6 months of the probation period to train the people on the new technology, because that has already been agreed with the university, and they are taking care for that. So it's a slowly the people, they are adopting this technology. And going forward, like you will see, uh, this academia as well as the corporate, they are going to work hand in hand, and the student, they will have the more opportunities. So it's not about some specific thing. There are a lot of opportunities coming in the skill. So the formal education system is definitely important, but the skill based education is also the need of the hour. So like the individual, they need to understand their own key strength, rather than focusing on the some specific curriculum or the specific skill. So they can select their career based on the passion. So it's not about gone are the days when only the engineering and the medical were the two choices for the people. Now they can have in the jewelry industry, they can have fashion design, they can have this literature writing, anything that they are interested in, they can go with that. And there are the corporate as well as the the various this institute who are bringing those people for those technologies, and they are enabling the people.
Thank you, there, Sanjay. While I don't know if Vivek is back or not, but in the meanwhile, we have Mr. Inder Kishan Bhatt,
Yeah.
who is the Vice Chancellor from Manav Rasna University. He had posted a question and raised the hand. So, Mr. Bhatt, can you hear us?
Yeah, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I
Whom would
think,
you want to ask the question?
see, ultimately, industry gets manpower from these institutions. And what Raviji is saying, 10 साल तक नहीं बदला है, I think he is living in some other planet. Things are changing. Every university, every engineering college, especially because that is the base for you, is changing their curriculum almost every year. There are industry people who are on their boards and who, in fact, oversee what is the progress, and saying that they will not do anything and therefore you will have to invest and do this is, I think, he is not really well aware about a situation. Yes, industry has a role to play. Industry should come forward because the institutions prepare students for all the industries, not for certain specific industries. And therefore, those specific industries which want students to be trained in certain specific areas need to come forward and work on development of these students hand in hand. See, there, like my university, we started when AI started working for last 2 3 years. People have been talking about AI. We also shifted to AI. There is no course, even electronics, mechanical, civil. We are asking them to go for data analytics, business analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning. These were not the subjects which are core subjects to these branches. But we have integrated it because the demand is there. And therefore, you need to understand by just saying it, they will not do anything is not fair on part of Raviji. I think if he is more conscious and more, I think, responsible, I think he has a role to play. He should come forward, look what is needed to be done in these academic institutions also, and then really shake hand with them and train students. Now there is an opportunity. AICT has also said that students can go for in 6 months or 1 year training to the industry also. So therefore, we write to the industry and industry does not acknowledge even those letters. So I think if there is a possibility of working for 6 months, what Sanjay ji has said, in fact, uh, you will get those students who will be ready for industry and equipped with specific skill set. So my suggestion is that the industry should open. We should collaborate. Look at what is happening in US. He talked about US. The industry is sitting in the laboratory actually. All the innovations are coming from laboratories, but this does not happen here. Thank you.
Maybe I can respond to that
Yes,
to
yes,
Mr.
sure.
Inder's question. Sir, thank you very much for bringing up this point. I would like to go on record and say that I have worked with Larsen and Toubro, uh, GE Healthcare, and with Philips, and and all these three organizations, we take on an average of, at least in my team, we take about 200 interns every year and train them up. It could be, if it's a postgraduate, they come with us for about a year. If it is a undergraduate, they work with us for 6 months. But notwithstanding what has been said, and if I look specifically at medical electronics courses or biomedical engineering, which is which serves a lot, or even for that matter, computer science. When we are looking at the software in the healthcare industry, I think I am fairly confident to say that, like for example, what happens in an MR machine or what happens in a CT machine is hardly known to the students, and I can challenge anybody on that. Those courses which are fundamental, which are domain intensive, are not taught in the universities, which need to be sort of brought in, and that is where you will find that you bring in a certain amount of specialization in what you do. It cannot be all generic. At least in the final semester, you need to bring in a certain appreciation so that the assimilation of the candidate into the industry is fairly smooth and easy. People talk about intellectual property. There is not hardly any courses there which talks of what an IP is all about. In Yeah, your university could possibly be an exception, but what I'm saying is, in the balance, 80-90% of the universities, you hardly get to see that. Yes, I also agree with you saying there is a progression in terms of changing the curricula, but then they are also limited by the so-called university rules. And if it's a deemed university, it's a bit faster. If it is affiliated to the normal universities that we have in the states, then it takes a much longer time for these implementations and realizations to happen. And notwithstanding that, I am yet to see people from academia, professors and lecturers, coming to industry on a sabbatical. I have not seen this in India yet. So
Thank you.
yes, I agree with you. Industry need to come forward and shake hands and try and do what is needed. Industry is trying to do its best. I think we would also need a similar embrace from the institution per se, in terms of making both hands clap and make things better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi sir. Thank you, Mr. Butt, for your question and your concern. I will leave you to the audience now. The next question is, how are large events, example, the reordering of the global supply chain post-COVID, or climate change, or the effect of automation, are shaping the skill sets in your industry? What kind of new skill contours you envisage to come up? So we can start with you, Ravi sir, and then move on with the rest.
I think I would possibly look at AI ML is seemingly what is catching up. I would also be looking at cloud technologies. That is something that is going to come up in a big way. Remote management, remote sensing. If I look at specifically from a medical domain perspective, non-contact sensing, as we call, is something that is catching up. The role of clinical decision support systems to ensure that given a set of parameters, how do you actually derive insights and how do you sort of make actionables out of it is something that is catching up in a big way. So for me at this point in time, it is basically the conventional digital technologies that we look at: microservices architecture, Kubernetes. You're looking at cloud, you're looking at security. Security is another big one, given that you've got a number of remote devices up there. And more than anything else, I think one needs to be conscious about not infringing on patent rights, and therefore a special emphasis in terms of understanding the patent laws and the white spaces that are available is something that needs to be looked at critically.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi sir. Samip, your views on this?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just taking some. Right. So, a few things I think, as we all see what has happened because of the COVID, on that backdrop, there are two key parameters which have in business got focused. One is the entire business continuity, because the first thing when the pandemic hit, everybody was struggling and focusing on business continuity. That how can I still continue whatever I can in whichever geography I can, with whoever who can come to the office or work from office or come to the shop floor. The second thing people realize that it's not just the business continuity now, but an ability to manage the risk in business that may come in such form now and in the future. So with those two things, what happened is that entire investment and the focus towards some of the digital, those two became a backdrop or the lens. Now, when you put those two backdrop or the lens, the first thing becomes that making operations extremely visible. Always spoke about the visibility when it comes to smart manufacturing, etc. But a visibility at an operations and integrated visibility. Let me take a supply chain example. For example, in supply chain, we always have a visibility into the transportation, where the truck is, where is it moving. If there are goods which are inside, which are temperature sensitive, then you can even monitor them. It's all one silo of transportation management. Just before it leaves the factory, then you've got another silos, which is manufacturing visibility, come from transactional systems of SAPs of the world from a transaction point of view, to any other MES or whatever you have, which gives you manufacturing visibility. And then you have a procurement platform, which depending on which company, what you've invested in, or a lot of time it is in Excel. Some people have gone higher and they've got some procurement online platform that gives visibility. Now, when you want to take a view of a risk management, you want this as an integrated visibility, because now I suddenly want to know if I'm supplying in a particular geography which is at risk for because of whatever reason, what is the bullwhip effect of that on my entire supply chain? If there is a particular raw material which is coming in, okay, which manufacturing process and the product that I should put in so that I can deliver a product on time in a geography where possibly risk is minimal and business is still on. So I think one is this integrated visibility, and underlying to that integrated visibility, from if I remove the business layer of it and unpeel the technology side of it, you'll have analytics involved, backbone of a cloud involved, visibility involved, dashboard, everything that comes. The second aspect of it is, I think, this machine visioning I've seen is going to play a lot bigger role, because people want lesser and lesser dependency on people for critical operations. So my critical operations is a lot more people dependent. I want to democratize that skill, and digital will help you democratize that skill. So it's not just replacing people, but I'll re-emphasize it is democratizing the skill. There are different ways in which democratize, so that my dependency on that expertise goes away. I can bring anybody, any other migrant worker, local worker, and actually get him up to the skill from the next day. So I think there's a lot of focus on democratizing the skill so that my business continuity is again faster. The third important thing that I've seen is the robotic process automation. I touched upon it in my previous question. It is becoming a faster commodity, and one reason why it is picking up, because if you look at in this year, people lost 1 quarter. So if you ask any business leader today, their focus is going to be to deliver what they would deliver in 12 months, they have to deliver in 9 months. When you have to deliver in 9 months, one single KPI that is on top of every business, trust me, irrespective of industry, is going to be lead time right now. Nobody wants to waste the time. They want to cut down the wastage of time from a finance function, procurement function, PO function, any function. In fact, we've taken the lead time as a theme at a company level and say that whatever you can cut down. We don't want to focus on one particular area. We just want to cut down lead time across functions. So because of that, RPA actually helps in enormously cutting down the lead time by removing all the mundane jobs, all repetitive jobs, high volume jobs, because it brings one advantage, which is people come to office between office hours, 8 hour, 9 hour, if you extend 10 hour, but a robot can work 24 hours. The second advantage it brings is that whatever you can do in 10 hours, it still possibly there are chances that error can happen. But it is done by robotics, it's going to be error free. So your chances of actually improving the lead time and minimizing the error and meeting the deadline is much more higher with some of the RPA processes where possible. I'm not saying you can have RPA everywhere, but there's going to be a huge focus on. So these are the 3-4 areas that I've seen immediately rising because of the COVID, but the backdrop right now I see very strongly is a business continuity and a risk management, and whatever helps me do that.
Great insights, Samit. Thank you for that. Sanjay, your views on this, please.
Yeah. So I also echo what Samip and Ravi said. Now, with this, the market and the trend that we have seen so far, automation, or like I should say, this efficiency is the core concern. So, everyone, they want to have this the better user experience with the better efficiency and leveraging all kind of the automation. So automation can be, it can be anywhere, right? So it can be in the software, as Samip said about this robotic process automation, or it can be in the industry, manufacturing industry, where this robot can come and they can, rather I should say, the cobot, which are
Yeah.
not replacing the human but making their life easier. They work collaboratively with them, and that is where like the industry is moving. So India, a lot of industries, they have started adopting this part, but in other countries, they are much advanced on that. So like in Germany and in Japan, we work with a lot of partners where this they have much mature ecosystem for the robotics. And when I say robotics, it's not just the mechanical robot or the robotic arm, but it can be anything in terms of uh, any kind of the robot which can we can use for the hazardous zone in the industries, or maybe in the capital management, or any kind of the thing. Or it can be some sort of the drone as well for the inspection. So as they can be this computer vision based thing that we can, whatever the human, they will take a few days or few weeks to complete that task. Robot and this latest technology, they can do it very faster. So in my view, efficiency is the core part, and the way of doing the efficiency or improving the efficiencies, it can be anything. But at the same time, this AI is something which is implicit part of each and everything. By knowingly or unknowingly, you are testing that, whether this is you are purchasing some product on the social this online site like Amazon, Flipkart. You, at the back end, there are a lot of recommendation engine which are already working, right? So they are recommending you. So knowingly or unknowingly, everywhere you are using this AI. So industry, they want to leverage this the huge amount of the data that they have collected from the cloud, and they are using those this prior experiences of their own data in and utilize this the for the recommendation engine, or to build some of the new innovative technologies, just like digital twin. So nowadays,
Yeah.
this digital twin, it's a buzzword, I can say, but a lot of people, they have started adopting as well. A lot of industries, we are working for this manufacturing industry, aerospace and defense industry, even this the CPG industry as well, right? So there you can think of this the twin of their product which they want to formulate. So it can be pharma industry, a lot of industry, they are using that. So AI is playing important role for the data that we are collecting. And cloud, again, obviously, because this we cannot scale this on the at the physical level, so industries, they are leveraging the cloud. So all of this, the bigger player, the SI industry, they have started the upskilling their resources on these kind of the technologies so that they can have the market demand they can satisfy and the customer need they can satisfy. All of the major industries, they are driving their people to have the cloud automation and this artificial intelligence. These are the three core technologies.
No, I completely agree with all of you, and I think it's been rightly said that AI, cloud, and technologies like RPA, digital twins, cobotics will play a major role coming in. I mean, coming in the future, and we did see that glimpses of those in some of the episodes we had done. Ravi sir had been part of an episode that we had done on future cities, and we were talking about digital twins. Health twin. We were talking about a water twin. We were talking about how a city twin can be created, and how future cities can be better managed and integrated with the grid. Then we also looked at how cobotics will shape the future when we talk about drones and autonomous freight, these kind of areas, or robots working with humans in collaboration to drive better efficiency.
In fact, Suman, I would possibly want to add there saying that you got robotics in surgery also now.
True.
Like, for example, Da Vinci is one classic case which gives you a very, very compelling case as to how a surgery can be done faster, better, and less traumatic as compared to what a surgeon normally does. Given the degrees of freedom that it has and the accuracy that it can bring in, and like, for example, a surgeon might accidentally go and cut a vein, whereas a machine will just not allow you to do that. It just blocks you from it.
True.
So, yeah, certain amount of aid in terms of refining and honing the skill to the next level and making it a lot more safer for patients. Yeah, robotics is there in surgery as well.
Thank you, Ravi sir, for that. Indeed. Now, coming to the last question before we break up for question answers, I think when you look at perspectives from organizational design and skill value perspectives, what is changing at the fundamental level, and what do they need to recast the skill inventory? Ravi sir, starting with you.
Yeah, I think we will have to look at it as two areas. One is basically the horizontals or the platforms, which basically provides the enabling technology. Like, for example, if it's a software, I would look at C, C++, Java, C Sharp, Angular, Python, R, all of those things which basically enable you to work in a domain. Those to me are the horizontals because they are not specific to a particular, either to a particular industry or a particular domain in that sense. But then you also have the verticals, like, for example, I have got something like radiology, which is basically CT, MR, X-ray. Then I have got the imaging technologies with ultrasound. I have patient monitoring system. So to me, those are basically the vertical, the domain technology. The domain technologies is the responsibility of the respective business unit to go and train their people on. Whereas on the functional axis, on the common technologies, the enablers or the basic skill set that one talks about, that is more of an initiative that is being done at an organizational level by the learning and development department in terms of ensuring that all the people are brought to a certain level and then they get assigned to the domain where the domain intensive training is actually delivered to them. So you get to see a mix of, it's a matrix of sorts that you get to see in any organization. The domain being handled by the business units and the functional enablement being handled by the horizontals and the L&D, the learning and development department.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Samip, your views on this?
Suma, you want to just rephrase the question? I just want to understand exactly what you want to.
Yeah. So the question is from organizational design and skill value perspective, or skill value chain perspective rather, what is changing at the fundamental level, and what do they need to recast the skill inventory?
Okay, got it. Thanks for that. I think if you look at, I remember back in my consulting days earlier, we used to do this of capability or a skill assessment. And there are these organizations which do a lot of skills assessment, and typically when a JD gets created, a job profile gets created, there are two levels that you see. One, you see a functional skills assessment, and then you see a behavioral skills assessment. And it has been like that for ages and ages, that we only had two sides: functional skills assessment and a behavioral skills assessment. Whereas if you look at every business today, it's becoming basically a technology business with a business wrapper to it. Okay, at the core of every business, the technology is becoming more and more prominent with whatever function or a business wrapper around it, and hence I see a larger need to add this third perspective of a technology skills. No matter what background, at what level you walk in, there is certain technology skills. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually you have functional skills, behavioral skills, and a technical skills. The fourth, I think, along with this, what has happened, I have seen, and I think, but this has been talked about, whether the emotional quotient or the mental side of it. So I'm not touching that while it has become more prevalent in last few months that I've seen as people are locked down, spending time at home alone, working alone. We've seen, I think, that also becoming more important as a focus from organization point of view. But taking it to the digital, I think this technology skill is going to be becoming more pervasive and a common to everybody. It's not going to be a custodian that today we don't talk about saying, oh, do you know computer or not? Do you know Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Word or not? Likewise, I think some of the skill, just understanding basics of, if I say 101 of digital, saying that do you understand what cloud means? Do you understand what IoT means? I think this basic knowledge, because you can't be a leader, functional leader, if you don't have a basic knowledge, working knowledge, because not you can't get a vendor to do that, but because you can't think of an exponential application of a digital to make your business better. Today, nobody can be a business leader with only functional knowledge, because the technology might come and wipe away the business model or eliminate the business process. Okay, if you look at traditionally, for example, 15, 17 years back when I did my first project in banking, it was about lead time improvement. The check, you process the check and lead time improvement, and how many days, months, days the check gets processed. Now, 15 years, I think, couple of years back, I think I have looked at another consulting assignment before, 4 or 5 years back, in fact, when I was in UK. Same lead time process for the banking, another bank based out of US. Now the process was actually, it is not even about lead time improvement, it was eliminating the check. It was saying that take a picture and send it. Now, if there is no process of actually dropping the check into the ATM, somebody will pick it up. We actually traveled in my consulting that along with the check to identify where the gaps are in the lead time improvement. So, this is a very minor or a smaller example of a digital, but from customer experience point of view, high impact. Likewise, I think today I don't believe anybody could be a good business leader unless the good technology age from an application point of view. I'm not saying people need to be a coder. I'm not saying people need to understand how to go and write a Python code, everybody, but they certainly need to understand an application of a technology in their business to make those exponential choices.
True, Samip. I think that's very rightly said. Sanjay, would you want to add your views here?
Yeah, so I think Samip and Ravi, they have already covered the aspect about the domain and the different things that are changing. But within this organization, from the skill preparedness perspective, I think the biggest trend, what I can see based on my experience is now the organization, they are working from top-down approach. So earlier, like when they have to move, like they have to build the skill, they were starting from the bottom up approach where they were asking people to go on training and do this on the job the thing. But in order to talk to the different customers or to drive the business or to drive the this innovation or the change in their particular unit, it's very important that leadership, they are familiar with this technology what they are talking about. So the biggest trend that I can see is like nowadays the organization, they are starting from the top where the leadership, they are going through the fundamental training, at least the fundamental training, or in some cases the advanced this learning that they have, and then they are building the team within their group. So whether it might be security, or it might be like some specific AI, or it might be the cloud. So everyone, they have to learn this new technology because industry is moving very fast, and if you are not upskilling yourself, then you are outdated very soon. So like nowadays, like within just short span of the time, you need to quickly adopt the technology and then leverage that. So to take advantage of the early mover. So that is the one of the biggest trend I can see. Like now at every level, whether you have this experience of 5 year or 15 year or 25 year, you still have to learn and you have to adopt the new technology so that you can drive the business.
Thank you there, Sanjay. I think with that,
Suman, I
Yes,
just
yeah.
want to make a point here, saying,
Yes, sir.
in adding on to what Sanjay said, one of the things that is also happening in the software world is the fact that you're going into an agile model now. The traditional waterfall approach is gone away. You're looking at agile methodologies by which you want to sort of uh, make a release to the customer ever so often. What used to be once in a year event is now happening once in a quarter, then it came once in a month, and now once in a week, once in a day, and sometimes multiple times in a day, in case depending upon the industry that you're working in. So because of that, what is happening is each of these teams, when they start getting into an agile mode, they plan what they are going to do and execute on it, and they measure themselves on it. Therefore, the need for a people manager in the industry, at least in the healthcare sector, in the software sector, is going away. And what we really need is what Sanjay said, is in terms of having technical managers, the techno-functional managers, and they are playing the role of a people manager as well. So that is a significant change, because when we went through that change 2 3 years back, it was quite a shock, it was quite a revelation, and we had to do a lot of change management to ensure that people are comfortable in embracing that sort of a mode of working going forward.
Yes, yes, yes. Perfectly right, Ravi sir. Thank you so much. I think with that, we have come to almost the end of the session where we can pick up some of the questions that the audience has asked. I can see one which has been put forward by Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee, who is the director of the Wills Charitable Foundation, is also part of our IT Future Tech panel. This is exactly what we want to do, right, through this kind of sessions. It's about building a roadmap. So, can we have a roadmap with milestones for transforming any multi location industry from traditional stage to a digital mastery stage? It's a vast subject, he says, but some broad guidelines can be given. So, your thoughts, gentlemen, on this, about creating a milestone and a roadmap. Yes, Samip, starting with you.
So what I think it's a very, as he rightly said, it's a big journey. It's a long journey, but if you actually just bring some structure to it and ready to take that long-term view, what we did in the form of a digital academy 3 4 years back is paying off today. What we did is that in the first case, when we saying that digital mastery, the first level of that is an awareness. I think the simple awareness of what each one of these shiny tools means to my business, not just means, but means to my business. So I think creating this, and there are a lot of free YouTube videos, HBR article, McKinsey article, a lot of this free data available to just create this awareness and take people's quotient ahead or up, saying that they are at least aware that there what is going to be impact on me. The second thing what we did is that when you create this impact, you'll find that there are few early takers. We identified the second stage, saying that at next stage we identified a few hundreds of people, saying that these are going to be the flag bearers, and we actually then invested more time in the form of full day workshop, actual live project along with their day-to-day functional job, and worked on them for 6 to 9 months for them to complete one project in their function, something in digital. From those few hundreds, the third layer which we are working on right now is to identify your champions in each of the area. And I think that is, I think in our context, we divided into a yellow belt, green belt, and a black belt. That actually helps you to build the capability in the form of a pyramid, because you certainly expect the dropouts to happen. You certainly expect not everyone to become expert in everything, but in the process, you ensure that overall awareness has gone up, overall knowledge of digital has gone up. There are few people who have actually touched, felt, and did something, and few who have emerged as a champion, which will become your eyes and ears in the multi-location diversified businesses. Because no matter how much money you spend in hiring a one particular person as a CDO or whatever, he or she can't do it any which ways. You need more antennas out in the system, in the on the floor, in the field, which can actually smell these opportunities, convert these opportunities, conceptualize these opportunities from digital point of view, and hence this bottoms up movement and approach in developing skills is required. I think if you bring that structures of three levels that we thought of, but whatever works for you, it may you may actually see the benefit in 1.5 to 2 years time.
Thank you for that, Samip. Yes, Ravi sir, you're saying something?
No, not really. I just answered a question.
I saw that, and I think it's very relevant, and it also merges with the next question, which is there asked by Venkata Lakshmi, who is from Vellamal Engineering College, saying, "What is the scope of industries to establish their R&D inside private academic institutions in India?" I know some of them have already been started happening, but what is the broader scope around this?
Yeah, I think let me take that one. For
Yes.
sure, I think a lot of industries do have labs within the colleges. Like, for example, I can name, if I look at PESIT, then I think Intel has a lab there. Nokia used to have a lab there. HP has a lab there. If I look at MAHE, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Philips has an imaging lab there which deals with MR and CT images. And when we also have a data science lab there. So if HJCE, as a case in point, has something, BMS has something. So there are enough and more colleges that I know where the industries have gone ahead and set up something. In fact, Bosch has quite some labs too in JC as well, I guess. So a lot of the private sector is taking that initiative in terms of setting it up. But then, yeah, I think it has to be, it requires two for a tango there.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think what's also come out is that while we were discussing initially about this topic, I remember Samip, you did mention that irrespective of what we do, I think the next 5 years we will see 1 million jobs being created on future skills. I think the real question is how do we prepare our youth for it, or how do we grab that opportunity when it comes up? And I think one of the toughest questions which we need to ask is how will industry and academia forge a strategic and deep interdependent relationship to meet these numbers? I think this is what even Vivek wanted to ask, and I think that's the big question: how is industry and academia going to work hand in hand to create a partnership which will help in meeting these numbers? So I think with that, we've come to the fag end of the session. I would just want to say thank you to all the speakers for being a part of this. It's been a wonderful discussion. We could cover a wide array of topics and provide some great insights. Right from the kind of technologies which will be in demand in the future, what are the skill sets which are needed, how do we see them changing over the years, and how can industry and academia, not that they are not already working, but how can we continue to work together to create more youths and able youths to meet these numbers in the future. With that, I would want to say thank you to all our audience who have been a part of this. Thank you so much, gentlemen.